It's a familiar face coming into Arnie Allen Diamond at Gov Fuller Field tonight. The Falmouth Commodores welcome the Bourne Braves for the second time in 4 days. Hello and welcome to another edition of Opening the Door along with Logan, Soforenko, and Carter Bainbridge. I'm Trey Redfield. So glad you're with us tonight for the Dores and Bravos. Logan, let's talk about what happened last night. A big-time win for the Dores, taking down the Harbor Hawks by a score of 3-2.
Well, it was about time we finally got one against the Hyannis Harbor Hawks, and in comeback fashion. They only trailed by 1 run, but they were able to capitalize off a 2-run inning, and then all of a sudden later on in the game we saw Josiah Cromwick go the other way to give some much-needed insurance as they escaped with just a 3-2 victory as they got Riku Nishida as he swiped 2 bags in the same inning, and he capitalized on the Falmouth Commodores pitching, taking a little bit of time getting the ball back to Josh Stewart, so he took third base. Then Levi Wells came in, but nevertheless, they walked away with a win. Levi Wells got the 5-out save, and they didn't commit 1 error last night.
You said the word capitalize, which is a perfect turn over to you, Carter. The Commodores capitalized on the Wareham Gatemen last night, despite not even playing them. Wareham lost last night at Harwich in White House Field. Falmouth got the W. Now it's a 2-point difference between Wareham and Falmouth for that last spot in the Western Division to make the playoffs.
Yeah, so a couple different things could happen today, but it all revolves around the Dores getting another win against a Western Division team. That's the key for them as this season heads down kind of the final stretch over these past couple weeks in July. The Dores have had a lot of close losses to Western Division teams this year, but finally they came out on the other end of a tight contest yesterday against Hyannis when in the late innings it was 3-2. The Hawks put a couple guys on, but Levi Wells came in to close the door in that game. So clutch performance has been cruel to the Dores this summer, but they came through last night, and that's momentum to build on as we head into a pretty crucial stretch against some Western Division rivals.
Levi Wells, Logan, closed the door defensively on the mound, but the Commodores couldn't really do that offensively. They left 12 runners on base last night in Hyannis. There's that. But also, if you want to bring a positive into this, the Commodores had 0 errors last night in a game for the first time this season. A couple of positives and negatives to take into tonight, Logan.
Yeah, especially when it comes to getting runners on. That next thing you play the game the next day and you say, all we got to do is just figure out a way to get the ball into the outfield. We saw a lot of big swings in that 6th inning where we saw 2 runs getting scored. Luke Boyers almost had himself a huge 3-run home run, but it died just at the fence. So maybe not necessarily swinging for the long ball, but getting it into the outfield is probably what's going to be at stake for today if they want to get those runners scored. Because the last time the Harbor Hawks were here at the Gov Fuller Field, they stranded just as many base runners, not 12. They stranded 9, but they came away with the win. So sometimes that's just how baseball goes.
It's just baseball, Susan, right? Sometimes that's just the way it goes, but you really got to get on base at the end of the day, right? But, Carter, let's talk about who's on the mound today for the Commodores. It's Chase Jeter making his 3rd straight Friday start. There have been 3 home games for the Dores this season. Jeter getting all 3 starts.
And Jeter has been quietly dependable for the Dores this summer. He carries a 2.13 ERA in his first 5 games into today. So the Dores feel pretty good about having him on the mound. He's not the highest velo guy on this staff. He's more of a command pitcher, works down in the zone, uses his break to get ground ball outs. His last start was against the Hyannis Harbor Hawks in this ballpark in a loss that the Dores took. He went 4 innings in that game, gave up 2 runs. Only 1 of them was earned. He's usually pretty stingy with base runners and in the run department. So if you're the Commodores, you feel pretty good about Jeter on the mound today. And don't forget, he's pitched a lot in this ballpark after coming back from last summer where he pitched with the Dores in 2021 as well.
Last year, he came in as a reliever. It was the first time he was ever a reliever, but now transitioning more back into that starting role that he had at Sacred Heart. But, Logan, let's talk about the Bourne starter. It's Anthony Arguelles out of Miami.
Yeah, Anthony Arguelles coming into today, just 1 appearance on the season, but he hasn't given up a base hit. He struck out 4, only walked 1 batter. That was in a win against the Catuit Kettleers in which the Bourne Braves won 12-7. But, yeah, you mentioned it. He was with the Hurricanes this past spring, a 2-0 record, 4.82 ERA, but he also transferred from before Miami from JUCO. So has a long journey because right now his journey goes to Virginia Tech because he's going to be with the Hokies in the fall. So he's looking to keep things rolling for the Braves because their pitching, not necessarily the best last night, only 2 runs given up. But on the other end, at Chatham, they were tossing some pretty nice baseball against the Bourne Braves all the way up until the 9th inning, and we all know what happened then.
Yeah, what happened was that Mac Horvath hit a walk-off grand slam in case you missed it. We were on the radio broadcast, and I was going off the air, and you were starting to freak out a little bit. I get off, I'm like, what's going on? Horvath hit the walk-off grand slam. That's the momentum to take into tonight if you're the Bourne Braves, right?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, you think about the amount of comeback victories they've had. They've won 5 of their last 6 coming into today, and they've been just absolutely spectacular comeback victories. You think about the first one where they put up an 11th spot in the top of the 9th inning to defeat the Hyannis Harbor Hawks, in which you talked about it. Phil Matulia was on the mound for the Hyannis Harbor Hawks because, hey, might as well throw in a position player in there. But then coming into today, Bourne trailed by 2 going into the 9th inning. They put up a 6th spot, and now they trail the Hyannis Harbor Hawks by just 2 points for 2nd place in the Western Division, and Hyannis trails Katuitt by just 1 point. So realistically, the top 3 teams, it's anyone's game, and that's something Bourne is coming into today knowing, because they could walk out of here with 2nd place tonight, at least tied with a Hyannis loss and a Bourne win.
It's getting excited at the top of the Western Division standings, but Carter near the bottom, the Commodores, like I mentioned, just 2 points behind the Gatemen. Who are you looking at for Falmouth to propel the Dores up to that potentially 4th place spot? A tie could happen if Wareham loses today and if Falmouth wins. Who do you have your eye on tonight for the Dores?
Well, it's the guy we've already talked about on this pregame show, and that's Chase Jeter. The Dores are going to have to get good starting pitching today, and good pitching all across the board if they want to hold off this Braves lineup. It's a lineup that doesn't score a ton of runs. They're middle of the pack in a lot of offensive categories, but they run like the wind, and they've come up with a lot of clutch performances like the one we saw last night. It wasn't the first time that they've had a 9th inning comeback. They've done it twice in their last 5 games. So these Braves stick around until the end of games. You're going to have to put your good guys on the mound to try to stem that tide when Bourne starts to get things going late in games.
So Carter focusing on Chase Jeter, the pitcher. Who are you focusing on for the Bourne Braves, Logan?
Well, that's going to be the guy of last night, Mac Horvath. Mac Horvath, he made his Bourne Braves debut the last time the Bourne Braves played the Dores here at the Gov Fuller Field. That was at the beginning parts of this week, and the Dores kept them in check. But also, aside from Mac Horvath, who hit the grand slam, the Dores are going to see Matt Shaw, who is in the lineup tonight, and an absolute stud from Maryland. We talked about him earlier this week, thinking he was going to be in the lineup on Wednesday night. That wasn't the case because we mentioned that really boring game. It was a 1-0 loss that went in favor of the Bourne Braves. The only run of offense was that Matt Shaw home run. So Matt Shaw, Horvath, Chris Brito, he is the Cape League leader in exit velo, so got to keep your eye out on that first baseman from Rutgers, but it's going to be a big one tonight.
It's going to be a tall task tonight for Chase Jeter. Logan mentioned the big 3 for the Bourne Braves. It's going to be a fun one, to say the least. That's Carter Bainbridge and Logan Soforenko. I'm Trey Redfield. I'll be on the field tonight. It's the Dores and the Bravos coming up soon.